There's a brand new deal with the MCU and Sony and Spider-Man. Kevin Feige is going to be in charge of Spider-Man once again, full steam ahead. So what does that mean? Are they going to actually be able to get that street level thing made? Well, what it does mean is there's going to be a lot more Tom Holland in the MCU again. Even though we thought he was going to maybe not do it anymore after this one movie, it looks like Tom Holland is coming back. We got Agatha, Penguin, a lot more happening here today on the show. It is the Christian Harloff Show, Capes and Cowls, with myself, Winston A. Marshall, Coy Jandreau. Let's do it, everybody. You ready? Yeah, I'm ready too. Wonderful. Okay, good. I like that. Let's do it. Perfect. Just frozen on me burning something. Whatever. It's Capes and Cowls. It's myself, Winston A. Marshall, and Coy Jandreau. Gentlemen, how are you? I don't know. I just froze on the Highlander.
It's so dramatic.
Yeah.
You know, it's just to give people some flavor of the the ruthlessness of the Penguin.
It's the truth. Well, yeah, we're going to talk about that for sure. We're going to talk about this Feige news, all that stuff. But Winston, we got to talk about what was going on last week. So Coy knows, so he's in the know. So Coy, so what we basically did, we started. This is your first kind of like live show, I think, right? Is this your first live one?
Yeah, first one of these.
So first live show. So basically, what we did is that we want to make sure, like since we started, we have questions that we've done. You've done a live show with us before.
Just not for this show.
Right, since we started. So once we do the topics, we go through all the topics, and then once we're done with all the main topics, we take questions from the audience. Well, last week we said, okay, you're going to be proud of this, because last week we started, and Roka started he had 43 questions, and Roxy said, I'm not going to be outdone, and she did 46 questions. Winston said, hold my beer, and did 106 questions on Friday. and I said, Coy wasn't even here. I said, Coy wasn't even here. So 106. So then we said, okay, we reset it. And this week, and I don't know if Winston knows who's in the lead this week.
I don't.
Okay, so on Monday, John Roca hit 73 questions. He didn't quite hit the 106. It's pretty good. Hit 73. So he's in the lead this week at 73. Roxy did very well yesterday at 55. Steph, 35. Our poor friend Tom Chattelbash came in for his first show ever in studio on Tuesday. 4 questions. So, yeah. But nonetheless, we are here with a whole bunch of things that we're going to be talking about today. And you guys are ready. We haven't even started the show, and you're ready at 14 questions. So there you go. Let's get to this main topic, because it's a big one, man. And that, of course, is this: Kevin Feige will still be in charge of the Spider-Man films. MCU and Sony's reported new deal will give us Tom Holland's appearances in more Marvel movies. Kevin Feige reportedly working out a deal with Sony to have Tom Holland's Spider-Man appear in more films in the MCU after Spider-Man 4. So with Tom Holland's Spider-Man 4 set to go on floors next year, new deals with the actors are reportedly being planned by Marvel and Sony. Apart from Holland's involvement, rumor has it that Marvel and Sony themselves are working out a deal where the actor appears in more MCU films. To date, Holland has only appeared in the MCU Spider-Man trilogy and the 2 Avengers films after making his debut in Captain America: Civil War. While the upcoming Spider-Man 4 has finally found its director, Kevin Feige has reportedly began to plan Tom Holland's upcoming appearances in the MCU. The Marvel chief is reportedly working out a deal with Sony Pictures, who partly owns the rights to Spider-Man, to get Holland to appear in more MCU titles. While Marvel Studios has produced Tom Holland's Spider-Man films, Sony Pictures still owns the right to the character and related villains. The 2 studios had struck a deal to allow the character to appear in the MCU. However, now another deal seems to be in the works with more Holland appearances after Spider-Man 4. Holland was last seen in the MCU swinging across New York City after the whole world forgot about the existence of Peter Parker. The blockbuster success of Spider-Man: No Way Home gave a boost to the MCU, which seemed to be slacking after the pandemic with their streaming offerings. Holland first appeared as Spider-Man in Civil War. Despite Sony Pictures having the rights to the character and his villains, Feige seemed to strike a deal with the studio to allow them to include him in the MCU. Marvel also produced the 3 Spider-Man films, and he also appeared in Avengers: Infinity War and Endgame. According to the latest scoop by industry insider Daniel Rickman, Feige and Sony are reportedly working on a new deal for Holland to appear in more titles after the upcoming Spider-Man 4. Fans seem to love this news and have expressed their opinion. A lot of people just kind of weighing in on this here. And then obviously there's a lot of hinting on the Daredevil stuff, and which is, I think, I would guess why they would do this in the first place. But I'm going to throw to you here first, Coy. You're the Spider-Man expert here. You hear the news and this potential. I mean, Daniel seems to be this guy, Daniel RPK. He had come out of nowhere over the last couple of years and seems to be pretty damn accurate. But this is something that makes sense. What say you?
I think that Sony is looking at the path they've already tread and went, oh, Madame Web was the worst we could have done. And I think they're trying to not let that happen again. I think that Venom, they had a tone that they, kind of figured out would work, and then they are running out of that with Venom 3. I think that Morbius, they took they got Achilles, but they didn't get kneecapped like they did with Madame Web. So I think they're kind of trying to figure out what their universe is going to be. I personally, as you guys know, think Kraven looks good. I personally am looking forward to Venom 3, but we haven't heard anything else out of them since those. Like, we haven't really seen the next step in Sony. So I think it's really smart for Sony to double down on their connection to Marvel. I think Kevin Feige in general has been very transparent about restructuring everything. This does, to me, kind of nullify my theory that Secret Wars was going to revamp everything. It seemed to me that after Secret Wars, they were going to fresh start everything. But if they're making this big of a deal, Spider-Man's here for like another 10, 20 years. I mean, even if it's 5 to 10, it's still past Secret Wars. So I think it's smart, but it definitely rewrites what I assumed was going to happen with the X-Men and everything going forward.
Winston, what do you think?
I mean, I don't think it's a bad idea. And I think, truthfully, the way, essentially, this might be the way in which everybody gets to have their cake and eat it too. I still don't like the fact that they're attempting to not give us a street-level Spider-Man movie, that they want to immediately jump back into multiversal, multi-Spider-Man. Like, just, God, you guys got me saying Spider-Man like that now. I hate you.
Lewis Spider-Man.
Spider-Man.
Lewis Spider-Man's coming into town, and he'll be here for the math test.
But I say all that to say, it feels like one of those situations that if Feige pulls this off with that negotiation, it is able to get Sony. You could potentially tell Sony, look, we'll still get your money. Let us do this first, because it is going to help us set some stuff up. It gives us a little bit more of a grounding, and you'll still be able to run to the bank with however many Spider-Man you want to put into a live action film after the fact, or any grandiose sort of stuff that you're doing. Like, I feel like this is a situation where Feige is aware that he needs Spider-Man in order to truly move forward with what he wants to do. And so if you're pitching to them the long game and negotiating that out, that you might actually be able to get them to calm. I had to stop myself, because there's a phrase that I've been using since I was a teenager that I don't think I can say on the show because we're supposed to be family friendly. But either way, it just calm yourself. That's essentially what this feels like to me in order for the longevity of success.
Yeah, I mean, look, it makes all the sense in the world and for Sony to make this deal, but whether it's connecting it to Daredevil, putting Daredevil in there. I think the other thing too is eventually they're going to want to do stuff with Miles Morales, right? As you're saying. So it's.
I think this is also sorry to interrupt. I think this is also the first time that both Sony and Marvel are in a position of their names aren't strong in the mouths of comic book fans right now. I think that Sony has had hits and misses, but overall people are like, oh, it's a Sony movie. I don't know whether to trust it, but then they still make a decent amount of money. Madame Web showed that isn't always the case. And then Marvel, which is, Morbius historically too, been... Bro. But Morbius wasn't as big of a deficit. It didn't do well, but it wasn't like we don't know if we get to make movies anymore for Spider-Man.
I get it. My only minor pushback is that they thought that It's Morbin Time was a thing, re-released the movie, and then actually lost even more money by the nature of re-releasing.
That's like your favorite story. Winston loves that story.
I mean, it is hilarious, but I also think that was like some Gen Z intern misreading the internet. Like Maybe. That definitely was like 3 or 4 misguided people made a big decision. But I think Marvel is not in the position they were the last Spider-Man negotiation. Like the last time they talked with Tom Holland, Spider-Man, and did all that, Marvel was still this golden goose, whereas right now it isn't that. And I'm wondering what kind of leverage each company has with each other in a different era.
Well, here's the thing. You're not wrong when it comes to where Marvel is as far as quality, right? Now, if you look at the shows, there's no argument. There's no argument, right? But when it comes to the movies, even though, like, we don't, like, there's a few of these movies, whether it's the Marvels or the Eternals, didn't have a lot of great box office, but even the ones that we're not crazy about, Thor, Love and Thunder, Doctor Strange, you can still say, if you're Bob Iger, hey, those movies still made a lot of money, man. So when you're making that negotiation, because they don't negotiate through quality, these people, when they should, but they don't. They negotiate through receipts. And so Marvel still has that over Sony, because they can say, look, the only anytime you put anyone in your movies that it's making money is when it's with us. And you tried to do that with Morbius by putting Michael Keaton in there, and that backfired on you, and we shouldn't even let you done that in the first place. So I think that they still hold the cards. I think
they hold more cards. I just think they're not infallible. I do think there's a different perception on it.
Less cards. Yeah.
Less cards. They have more, but less than they had.
Which is fair. And I think that for this, though, they're like, okay, look, this is what we need to do. We both need to do this. Let me run this. We know where we want to go with this. It will help you. It'll elevate you. It'll put money in your bank account. We will tell the stories that we want to tell, because as we know, Spider-Man has a pretty big part in Secret Wars, right?
I mean, I think they're going symbiote saga.
Right.
I mean, I honestly,
Probably.
my big tinfoil hat theory is that Null has a symbiote that ties into Spider-Man's universe, and Null ties into Secret Wars, and then through using Null in Venom 3, we then get a symbiote that's going to attach to Spider-Man. We're going to have a loose symbiote story, and then the trilogy after the Secret Wars stuff is going to be Spider-Man with the Black Suit.
But what's this mean for Tom Holland, though, right? Because Tom Holland, at one point was saying, and I had a great time doing it, and he's a really good actor, and this is going to lock him into Spider-Man for a very long time. He's going to be Spider-Man as much as, Hugh Jackman was Wolverine, but on that same argument, Wolverine, or Hugh Jackman rather, was able to do many other movies. I think The Prestige, I think these other movies. He's able to do a lot of other movies, and I just think that it means that Tom Holland and his kids and grandkids will never have to work ever again.
Pretty much. That's what it reads to me, is that they're going to back up the Brinks truck for him. And I think that he does enjoy playing the character. I know he's talked about the pressure of it as far as like living up to it, which is part of the reason why John Watts walked away as director. He's like, his words in the quote essentially was like, trying to catch lightning in a bottle like that again really isn't going to happen. Plus, I want to explore other things. I'm sure that's the same thing with Tom, that I'm sure he wants to go explore other roles. But if you kind of want to set it up like, you see some players as far as like sports, where it's like, this is my main league. This is the one that I play in every single year. But then in the off season, I like to go play over in China, or I like to go play in Australia or whatever. That's kind of what this feels like for Tom. This is going to be your bread and butter. And then in between, you're shooting the other stuff that you want to do.
Yeah.
I also think the industry is extremely different than when Hugh Jackman was coming up, for using that example. I don't know that you get to make as many movies as bold as The Prestige, or make as many bold swings as Prisoners in between this stuff anymore. The industry is so largely just tentpoles in theaters, indie movies on streaming, and I don't know if that comes back.
Well, but I guess that's what I'm saying, is that you're probably not going to get The Prestige where it feels sort of like an indie artsy movie, but it's obviously a main release that's in theaters and all that. I hear you on that one, but I can easily see that while Tom is doing Spider-Man that drops, 2025 and then 2027 and then 2029, that he's at the same time in 2026, he's doing like an Apple movie and an Amazon movie. And like, even though those may not be like necessarily always, wide release, they are still end up in a coda situation where you could potentially win Oscars and things like that. Like, I think he'll have plenty of space to do the stuff that he wants to do, while at the same time stacking enough money that, you could burn it, half of it, as the Joker did, and still have way too much damn money.
That's a good point. I'm just curious of where they're going to go with him. And and if we cover it a little bit deeper, I guess, on the street level side of it, right? Because, you know that they kept talking about how Feige wanted the street level thing, and Rothman and the rest of the crew wanted the big kind of multiverse thing. Now, I wonder if they came to terms with that inside of this potential agreement, because it seems to me, Coy, that if they're going to go and combine this street level Daredevil and be able to put Spider-Man in there, then how much more beneficial would it be to make the next Spider-Man for a little bit more grounded? But I don't think that's going to happen, but I think it should.
I think this Kevin Feige conversation sounds like it's edging towards that direction. Yeah. And I think the interesting thing about Destin Daniel Cretton is, as a director, I could see him doing either one of those. And I love that. I think that Shang-Chi was a balance of two worlds. Yes. And so if you're going to do a multiversal story, he's the guy. But he's also incredible at hand-to-hand combat and filming things that feel artistic and unique. Street-level stuff. He's a guy. So I think that maybe they hired the guy that could do both, and now they're figuring out which movie it is. It's not unheard of to have 2 or 3 scripts at the ready and then just like, okay, this is it, and go. So I would love if we found out later that this Kevin Feige conversation was to get the street level one that we all want. I'd also love if that leak you guys covered last week was a, what does the culture want? And then like all of us going like, we want street level. It's pretty obvious. Like, I'd love to find out that everyone on the internet, it felt like in 3 days, the entire internet went, that sounds like the movie we want. And then maybe we'll make that movie.
You know what the weird part is? When you did that with the mic, that's the best your mic has ever sounded.
He's not wrong.
All right, so
that sounds so much better.
Now that we're on TikTok ASMR, I'm going to talk sweet nothings about Spider-Man.
I hate that it covers your whole entire face, but it's the best.
You look like a douche, but
we've talked about how much we hate this so much, like in person to each other, and now that I've done it, you understand why.
Yes,
it's literally one of those things that like I have mad respect for all the creators that do it. It looks ridiculous.
It looks ridiculous. I hate it,
but it works.
This thing when
I have a really good point, I'll just go ahead and pinky out and have a.
It's the worst. I hate it.
I mean, Coy, if I just choke up on this like this, first of all, this looks very suggestive, so I'm not going to do it for very long. But
no diddy, Winston. No diddy.
It doesn't look suggestive. It doesn't look. It doesn't look suggestive. It looks like you're about to sing a sweet song. How about
that? About baby oil and lots. Anyway,
take it there. Take it right there. Take it right there. The beauties of being live. All right. So we have a lot to discuss. Wow, there's no way to mute you fast enough. We have a lot to discuss, ladies and gentlemen, and it is all right. Look at this, guys. I said with Coy here, it was going to be a thing because Coy and Winston are already at 23 questions, and we're only through the first story. So, can we beat Rocha again? Week 2? Can you beat Rocha again, Winston? Knock him off his perch two weeks in a row.
The funny thing is he tried to pretend like he didn't care. He's like, hey, man, how about we get them questions on Spill the Tequila like that? I was like, so you're jealous. And he's like, shut up. That's not important.
Yeah.
Hey, YouTube, I'm only like 70 subscribers away from beating Rocha at a subscriber count, too. So if you go ahead and want to jump over to Coy Jandro at YouTube, and he could just lose twice this week.
Oh, wow. That's your second. That's your
hater.
That's your only plug today, though, because of that. So before we move on, I will say, I know Winston always gets excited when I tell you guys that they are back. It is Joy Mode, and of course, AG1. I'll tell you about both of them right now. Here we go. You guys know it's time for Joy Mode. I love talking about Joy Mode. They've been with us forever now. So Joy Mode really is absolutely wonderful. It's a sexual performance booster. You know that already, but it's not just about better sex. Daily use supports healthier blood vessels, boosts heart health, and it enhances your athletic performance. Expertly formulated and backed by science, it's proven to improve erection function by 50% in just 60 days. So you just take a pack with water and you feel the effects within 45 minutes. Take control with Joy Mode. You get a boost anytime, anywhere, never miss a beat. It's a performance booster. And I'm telling you, I was like, wait a minute, let me see. I don't necessarily need it. It's not about needing it. It's about saying, wait a minute. This is really, to me, that pre-workout when you take like a supplement before working out and you're like, oh, wow, I feel incredible. Same thing. Get yourself a discount today and go to tryjoymode.com. Use that code BIGTHING. Tryjoymode.com. Use that code BIGTHING for your first order. You will thank me for it. And a lot of people have already been thanking me for it. Joy Mode, the best. Let's talk AG1. I love AG1. I had it this morning. I love it. It helps you build a healthy morning routine. 60 seconds to get your daily dose of vitamins, minerals, pre- and probiotics, adaptogens, more. And I've been drinking it for, forever. You can't be part of this show if you haven't heard me talking about AG1. I'm going to give you a couple of fast facts about AG1 and how it supports your gut health. It contains prebiotics, probiotics, and gut-supporting ingredients to support your digestion, reduce bloating, and keep you regular. In a research study, 80% of participants noticed less gas and bloating after 30 days of drinking AG1. For me, I've had a lot of changes since I started to. I sleep better, better gut health, my focus, stress all of it. It's just great. AG1's powder form makes it easy for your body to digest and access the nutrient-dense ingredients in the formula. I mean, they've been around with us for so long because so many of you guys have been doing it also. You've been getting AG1, you've been checking it out, you've been changing your routines, and it's worked. So if you want to start and notice the difference for yourself, it's a great first step to invest in your health, and that's why they've been a proud partner of mine for so long. Try AG1 and get a free bottle of vitamin D3, K2, and 5 free AG1 travel packs with your first purchase at drinkag1.com/bigthing. $48 value for free if you go to drinkag1.com/bigthing. Go ahead, check it out. All right, thank you to our friends over at both AG1 and, of course, Joy Mode. And as I've mentioned to you guys many times over, as I do every single show, that for people who are wanting to help out the show and get themselves something wonderful, I mean, AG1 and Joy Mode, I mean, come on, man. There's nothing better. So the links are in the description. Go and check it out. Gentlemen, we have 2 huge television releases that came out this week in the comic book genre. And they are, of course, both Agatha and Penguin. Agatha and the Penguin. So I think the way we're going to do it is we will go this way. We're going to do kind of non-spoilers on each one. We'll do a non-spoiler review of Agatha, and then we'll do a non-spoiler review of the Penguin, and then we'll talk about, you know, which ones are hitting with the critics, which ones we thought delivered, which has the longer shelf life. Is it the same? Is it one? Is it neither? We'll discuss that in just a minute. So let's start with Agatha All Along, the new Marvel Cinematic Universe series. You got Catherine Hahn, Aubrey Plaza, and it is, we've all said it beforehand, we didn't necessarily know why this show was being made. It was probably greenlit at a time when they were handing out shows the way they hand out candy at a dentist's office, right? So Catherine Hahn, she does she's great. You go there for her. She delivers on it. I think that someone said this in the comment section, and this is what I agree with, because Coy, I always get my one shot at what Star Wars is doing right now. And what they said was that the Acolyte marketed to an audience and gave them, they didn't know what the show was, and they basically lied to the audience of what, hey, you know what? We don't know who we're really throwing this to. Here's your show. This show knows exactly who they're marketing to. This, I will tell you that. So I did a reaction with this for my wife. My wife didn't know anything about this show. She didn't like WandaVision. She tuned out after one episode. She liked Catherine Hahn. She saw that she was in it. She didn't know what it was. Found out about witches. She loves this show. The jokes hit for her. She is on board. And I said, the show's not for me, but it's enjoyable. It's a well-made show. I think that the chemistry is good, but I'm not the target demographic for this show. But I do think that it is a well-made show, and I think the chemistry is there. I haven't seen your guys' reaction, but Winston, I'll start with you, man. What do you think of this show thus far?
Yeah, I haven't had a chance to put up my second episode. I separated them out between episodes 1 and 2, so I didn't get a chance to put out my second one yet. But essentially, my feelings were I wasn't a huge fan of the first episode. Yeah. It felt like we were kind of doing a riff off of WandaVision, like picking up where we left off in a good way, but also I got over it real quick because it didn't quite clip the same way that the other show nods were in the first one. But once it started to show, it's its own thing. So she kind of snaps out of it, and then we move on to the second episode. I actually really enjoyed it. Is it my favorite show of all time? No, but knowing the genre that we're in, the tone that we're in, I think the best description that I saw someone say on the internet, it felt like if Hocus Pocus and Desperate Housewives had a baby.
Yes, 100%.
By that combination, I was like, I know what I'm in for. I'm here for it. And for that reason, I genuinely am enjoying it. But that first episode, I get what they were doing with the Agnes of Westview. Mm-hmm. Just it was moving a little too slow for me to really dive into that one way or the other, let alone I'm assuming that's a nod to Mayor of
Eastwood, yeah. To which I was calling it Mayor of Eastwick the whole time.
But I with me not having seen the show, I get it enough as far as procedurals, but it wasn't working for me. And so once we got to the nitty gritty of what this really was, I was like, yep, I like it. I always like the meta stuff. I'm still like the nod to the meta, but it just wasn't clipping. But once we got to episode 2 and I knew what this was, I was like, yep, I'm here.
Well, that's what I mean. The show clearly knows what it wants to be. It knows what it wants to be, and it has the chemistry and all that. I still don't understand totally like who they're going after and the whole, if they feel like, if this is the audience we're going after, and we're trying to get new people involved on the show, because you're not going to get the traditional Marvel fan. The traditional Marvel fan is not going to, say, oh my God, I can't wait to sign up and watch Agatha. But they will bring in, and like this is like I said with my wife, what you're getting here is you're winning over my wife. You're going to get people who, and she did not know any of this stuff, but it doesn't mean that she's going to now tune back into everything Marvel does. And if the idea is we don't care about that, we just want people to find this show, and we want people to watch this show and enjoy this show as it is, that's what it is, and we're going to find some new people to watch it. Then I think that they've succeeded in that. And I didn't watch 3 and 4. Did you watch 3 and 4, Coy?
No, I've just seen 1 and 2. So
You've
I can
only
speak
seen
to those 2.
Okay, so same. So I've only seen 1 and 2. So 3 and 4 could get better. It could get worse. But Coy, from what you've seen thus far, where do you stand on this?
I agree with everything both of you have said. I also really like the desperate pocus concept. It does feel like it's a bit of desperate pocus. That blend does really work for this show. But what I'm curious about is what you just said with your wife. I think is exactly their goal, because there's a huge contingent of Disney branding that isn't Marvel that I do think is kind of bleeding into this. There's that spooky group. There's the people that are like Disney diehards that I think is absolutely going to flourish in this. But I do think there's a smaller subsect that are going to be like, oh, that was the Scarlet Witch corner. That's Agatha. That if they do stuff with them in Secret Wars, I do think that'll be like, oh, I'm already seeing it with my husband or boyfriend or girlfriend or sister. And then like now I'm more excited. So I think there is a little Venn diagram of they won't see it specifically, but it might get them more invested, because the show is totally, totally different. And I agree that it's very well made. It's got good chemistry. It's all the concepts I like, but it is certainly not for me.
Right.
I definitely struggled with the first episode. I could watch it and acknowledge that it was doing clever, cheeky things, but tonally, I didn't think it was landing them for me.
Yeah.
There's a very fine line between camp and corny. And for me, it was on the other side of, it was corny to me, but I can see how people that love camp would thrive in it if
Right.
that's how they perceive it. Like, I did Rocky Horror for 4 years in LA. I love Rocky Horror, but there's not much else in the Rocky Horror space that I enjoy. Like, I love Cabin in the Woods. There's not a lot of other meta horror that I dig. So I think my specificity is kind of handicapping my enjoyment. But by the time we got to the second episode, I don't know if it was because it whittled me down. I don't know if it's because I love Aubrey Plaza with all my heart, but I was at least able to connect.
Sure.
And I think what they're doing is planting seeds for people like us that are just Marvel fans to find some connectivity with like musical elements that I couldn't do in Miss Marvel.
Right.
Like when they started singing, I was like, oh, that's earned, as opposed to like, we got a musical planet. Like, I was able to connect enough that I'm excited for it to be my jam, but I'm not there yet.
That's a great point. I mean, because I think that it was, and to where Winston was saying the same thing, where they start off in the first episode, like, oh, they're just doing WandaVision again. And I said to my wife during the reaction, I'm like, I guess they're just going to do a new TV show every episode until how long? But they said, no, that's just to show you that the Wanda's still there. She's still, what was there before, it's still there. We acknowledge it. But this is more about, this is the adventure that Agatha is on. These are the people that she's going to be involved with. Here is your tone. And as I said, there are some jokes that Agatha, when she's recruiting at one point, she starts telling these jokes and they're flying over my head left and right. And my wife's like, do you understand that? Do you get that? I'm like, not really, but you are, and that's great. Right. And so there was the show's not aimed towards me. It just isn't. It's not aimed towards me. And I just wonder where it's going. Because here's the thing, I'm watching again The Acolyte, and I'm going, the show is just such a mess, and it's all over the place with the writing and the story, and I'm like, certain things just don't make sense. I still don't know why that Jedi killed himself. I still have no explanation. This story is explaining everything so far. It's explaining what it was, whether or not I, like you said, Coy, I'm like locked in or not. I know, I'm like, oh, well, okay. I look over to my right, my wife is following it, loving it. I'm like, okay, this is for her. But I still wonder what the deal is for Marvel of what they're trying to do. Where do these people fit in the MCU? As we just said, Tom Holland, where do they fit?
I do think there is an element of the spinner rack that's happening at like when you go to a comic store, there's not going to be just action comics. There's not going to be just detective comics. There is going to be some stuff that's like Spider-Man Loves Mary Jane and like those comics that are for a demo that might not read both. I think it's really smart of Marvel to do things like this show. It's just whether or not that tone will fit into an Avengers movie if they try to. I could see them using some of this. Honestly, I don't know if this is a spoiler, but Aubrey Plaza's character, I think, has huge ramifications. I think she's one of 3 characters that would be hugely impactful to the greater Marvel universe. But I don't know if they'll go that way because it would imply a need to watch this show that diehard fans might not have. So it is that question of how much is this going to be a must-watch thing for the greater MCU.
But this is where I go back to the same thing with Werewolf by Night. And I know that they were going to try to include that at some point to the MCU. Let this thing be its own thing. Let it be a thing that you tune into on Halloween and the scary, because it fits because that was the other thing my wife said when she was watching it. She goes, "Oh, this is a great thing to watch during the Halloween season," and it's like, let it be its own thing. Don't force it, because this tone in the same. It just, I don't know how they force this tone into the MCU.
I mean, in the same way that you watch any of those other MCU movies and all their tones are different. Like, I mean, I think what you would end up doing...
These characters, though, Winston, but these characters are so different.
No, I understand that, but Agatha we've already established as is, so you may not have to deal with the whole coven. But I'm saying that is for the world of the show. I bet you there will be a point in time, especially when we get to Secret Wars, that they're like, cool, if you're trying to get ready for, that we've gone through Doomsday and now it's on to Secret Wars, it's obviously watch the movies, but then watch episodes like 2 and 7 of Agatha, just like for the pieces, the nuggets that you need, in the same way that if you were watching a TV show, they're like previously on Agatha all along. Like, I genuinely think there will be a situation where there will be specific episodes that will tie into what we need, and then the rest is just filling out a TV show. And I think if you start treating it that way going forward, if the shows are going to be important like that, I don't think people will have a problem. And if you don't like the tone, you can survive 2 episodes. It won't kill you. You know what I'm saying? Like, right. I think that is what they're starting to aim to do, which honestly makes more sense.
And it's just like the comics.
Right, exactly. Go read Spider-Man 158 and Spider-Man 222, and then this will make sense for what's going on in Civil War right now. Like, I think that is what we're starting to see them start to make a shift to.
Yeah. So look, overall, this show, the tone is set. It knows what it wants to be. I think that it's a lot. There's a lot of episodes. It's only like 37 minutes, like the rest of these shows. This is one of those times where I'm like, that's okay. And I think that I am curious to see where it goes, because as I mentioned and Coy mentioned, Aubrey Plaza is wonderful. Catherine Hahn is tremendous. So for those 2 alone, I'm curious to see where it ultimately goes. We will see. But then the other, just last night, The Penguin debuted, and this was one where I was mentioning beforehand with my wife. This one is aimed more towards me than it is my wife's taste. And she doesn't know it yet, because I told her because we're going to watch the Batman together. We're going to do, she watched like the first 20 minutes and bailed on it. So I'm going to make her do a reaction to the whole thing. We're going to see it for like 3 hours. But the Penguin, she's like, well, then I guess I'll just watch that with you. And I was like, well, I know I'm going to talk about it with the guys today. So I just filmed myself doing a reaction to it, and I did episode 1. I didn't tell her. She doesn't check the channel anyway, so she wouldn't even know. But the Penguin,
now she's a star, bro.
More reason not to watch what's going on. But the Penguin was something I was very much looking forward to, and this show delivered and then some. This show was awesome. This is just an amazing, and man, the way that they paint, Winston, you're always talking about Gotham and how it's such, one of the big characters. The way that they paint Gotham in this show, I mean, it is so gritty, so right, and it doesn't look. Sometimes when there's shows and movies that come off of other parts of that franchise in the IP, it doesn't look like anything like that IP. What are you talking about? This looks like it was filmed right after the Batman concluded. Yep. It opens up pretty much letting you know that, yep, everything in that movie happen, and these are the ramifications of that, and this is what's going on here. Colin Farrell is just doing masterful stuff in this role. Masterful stuff with from the way that his accent to the little subtle things he's doing with his head as a penguin, his walk, the story itself, the manipulation of the mob stuff. Coy, I was talking to Roxy, and she told me, like, because I said, does it have that Sopranos vibe? And she said, well, Coy had mentioned it has like a Breaking Bad vibe. And I said, and Roxy's like, I don't see that. I see it more so in the Sopranos. I am going to split the difference. I think it's Sopranos meets Breaking Bad. I think there's tons of Breaking Bad stuff in there, but I think that there's a certain element that happens at the end of the episode that is very much Sopranos, straight out of Sopranos, and you get an understanding of the psyche of Oz in this, and it's someone that he meets along the way and a reason why, and how they put that, the chess games going on. I'm in. Coy, let's start with you here. What do you think?
I think this is my show of the year pretty comfortably.
Yeah.
I love The Bear. I love The Boys. I love a lot of TV, but I went into this thinking it was my most anticipated show of the last 2 years. Since Matt Reeves' The Batman ended and they announced a Penguin and an Arkham show, which I hope this does well enough the Arkham show comes back. Since those announcements, I've been one of my favorite actors of all time playing a very slept on villain that's been misinterpreted by a lot of pop culture in a universe that I absolutely adore, shaping a grounded level take on a character that I think doesn't get his due. All of this is my jam, and then the show overperformed for me. This show had a 10 expectation, landed at a 12. It did the impossible where it had to be pure gold for me to love it, and then it was better than I hoped. It does such masterful chess pieces, as you mentioned, with using characters' weaknesses as leverage and then doubling down and making those weaknesses their strengths, but then manipulating you into seeing how someone else could leverage that. It is such a masterclass in psychology, in ways to use archetypal characters in more grounded ways, in building settings as important, in reinterpreting characters. Renzi Feliz plays Robin. It's genius. He literally is Robin to Penguin's leading Batman role in a long form show down to his origin. When they introduce him, that's one of the Robin's origins. It is such a cheeky way to go, hey, if you read comics, you're welcome. If you don't, look at this Sopranos show.
Yeah, Winston.
Bro, I didn't even catch that.
He was trying to steal the ribs.
It was 1,000% on some Jason Todd-ish. Bro, that's crazy. Yeah, no, this show is fantastic. And the only thing I was thinking to myself the whole time, the only show in my mind of this year, and there's been so many good shows, the only one that has kept pace with it is X-Men 97. And so then the only argument I can see somebody saying at that particular moment is being well, that's animated, and then trying to write it off that way. But it's the only show that true to the form of the universe that has been built from its previous IP, expanding on it to a level that we didn't think was necessarily possible. You didn't skip a beat whatsoever, and already telling a compelling story, and especially from characters that we're not normally paying attention to in said IP with this much detail. There's just I think all of that collectively just came together and made this a masterclass in one episode. Now, I don't want to just automatic in the same way that we looked at, say, Agatha, and it was one episode that we're and then the second one we all kind of universally agree, okay, I'm here. The same thing could technically be true, where it's this first one, they maybe shot the moon, and then all of a sudden they could disappoint us on the back end. I'm not expecting that to happen, not with Matt Reeves executive producing, not with Colin Farrell doing what he does, but so far with what I've seen, this will probably end up being a tie, if not surpassing X-Men 97 for show of the year for me.
I want to interject and let you know comfortably, the second episode is as good as the first, and the third I think is even better than the first two.
I'm excited to hear that because I've heard really, really good things about they send they did send the whole season to everybody, and I was I just want to watch it week to week. Because
I only watched a little ahead because I was going out of town, so I stopped at 3, and then I want to go week to week so I can enjoy the conversation. But I was a little worried after the pilot was that strong that I would be disappointed, and then I was so elated to find out those first 3. It is so inventive, and it stays so clever, and none of that ever, the tension never dissipates. It is, that's why for me it's like a little bit above X-Men 97. Is I loved X-Men 97. Like, we raved about it, we talked about it week to week, but so far there isn't a single life death moment where we're like, totally, and I'm almost halfway through the show. So the fact that it stays that tense, I do feel like there were occasionally weak moments in X-Men that I haven't found in Penguin yet.
Yeah, it's really, really good show. And look,
you've only seen 3 though, right? Because
Yeah, correct.
Sorry, I was just gonna say Life Death was 4. So
this is the
spot. If it's gonna happen.
Yeah. Winston, do you want to jump? I don't know if you want to jump in. I can barely even see.
Yeah, I'll jump out and come back.
I can't see it.
Let's see if this fixes it.
Yeah.
I'll be right back.
Yeah. So, and then let me find it. Never mind. Well, Coy, I think that if you also look, the other thing that we can say when I go to Rotten Tomatoes right now, and we look at, so right now the Penguin, or Agatha rather, is at 78 on the, now I haven't even looked yet, but I would assume that the audience score is probably down on it, but let's see, the Penguin is the other one. That's 89 with an 88, 89 and 88. And then Agatha had a 78, 77 still. So it's consistent, and it's still a pretty decent scores on both of them. Yeah. So what do you think?
I think that's fair. I mean, but that's fair for me. I could see, if your wife was one of the hosts, or someone on Rotten Tomatoes, that would be elevated. I do think there is a different demographic goal for Agatha that isn't someone that reviews movies, that isn't someone that lives online. So, in fairness to both properties, the type of show that the Penguin's going after demographically is more the type that's going to be writing reviews for Rotten Tomatoes. So I imagine, if Desperate Housewives fans were more movie critic based, there might be a higher score over there. I think that I'm enjoying the Penguin at 100%, and I think that Agatha's lower for me. But again, we don't have your wife in this episode to discuss it. So I don't know, but I would rate them comparably. That disparity seems fair to me.
Yeah, I think so. I think this is going to be a very, very interesting. What I don't think is going to happen. I mean, look, we've said this many times over, and this will continue to happen. There are going to be people for the Agatha side of it that love it and will fight to the death for it. I even saw somebody in the freaking comments because I said something about Acolyte, one like this, fists up because I didn't like it and they loved it. Like, you didn't understand it. It's like that. Fine. There are people that are like that. Then there's also the people that are just going to hate everything, no matter what. And that, and this is what I've always said with Agatha right away, because they said there's a gay character in the first episode, and people saying this is the gayest show ever. I didn't see that in this episode. I didn't see that, and it just happens the character's gay. So what? Then,
I definitely think Aubrey Plaza's character and Agatha's tension is pretty great. But that's my interpretation.
But so what? It doesn't.
How is that a knock on the show? To me, that's great chemistry.
But the show, it doesn't. It's not just trying. To me, it doesn't seem agenda based. It just seems who the characters are. It doesn't seem agenda based. And there is also this whole thing where you have the characters. You've got the characters. The chemistry is there. If people like my wife, people that they're aiming towards, if people discover this show, then who cares? The discourse, I don't think, will be what the discourse was for Acolyte. I just don't think that will be the case.
I think even people that don't, if people that don't enjoy the show don't enjoy it because they're acknowledging it isn't their tone, they won't be saying the quality isn't good. My issue with the Acolyte personally was I wasn't enjoying it, and I found a lot of the choices poorly made. Like, I found that moments were just badly handled. I don't think people that are going to be going into this calmly and well-roundedly and rationally will have that issue. So I agree. I think it's a difference of tone versus quality. I personally couldn't connect to the Acolyte, and I found a lot of the choices to be objectively bad decision-making for a story.
Well, that's the point, is that for that show, I just thought the writing was terrible, and I thought the story choices and the characters were awful. This is more so of me, we're going, okay, this I can appreciate this show, and I think the writing is pretty good. It's clever. It's funny. The performances are pretty good. It's just not necessarily aimed towards me. And if I wasn't watching it, if I wasn't covering it for work, would I go out of my way to watch it? Probably not, unless my wife was like, "Hey, watch this with me." You know what I mean?
No, I totally agree. This isn't something I would watch on my own, and that's okay because it's not a lack of quality. It's just I don't watch everything. Reality TV is not my thing. I don't knock it. It's just not my jam.
Yeah. Coy, before we're trying to get Winston back in here. So when we do just that, that's you. So this is the beauty of live, trying to get everybody back in here. But we have a lot going on, and as I mentioned to you earlier, there he is. So we're also 35 right now. 35 questions for you guys. So that is pretty damn good thus far. Winston, 35. You've beaten Steph for this week. So Roca is in the he's zooming. You're zooming towards him. Roxy is also in the scopes. You know what I also forgot to tell you guys? Look what I got to do.
Oh,
Magic Mind. I got to get you guys some Magic Mind. I will.
Mind.
I need you to put a care package together like I'm in college of Magic Mind and AG1 and Joy, especially Joy Mode. I need them all in a box. Well, it just says "From Russia with Love."
I got to tell you, but I got to tell you guys that so for Magic Mind, what is so it really gets you kind of moving. You know, like it is absolutely the. I don't know. It's got the adaptations. It's got like that. It doesn't have like the shakes. Hold on, I got to do it. And it tastes like oranges. Why do you love it, Coy?
I love it because I can take it midday and still sleep later, and it'll get me through to the sleep later. It's not one of those like lingering, I can't control my energy things. I already have a bit of a caffeine addiction, and that can be detrimental to sleeping. Whereas Magic Mind, I personally think tastes delicious. It gives me that little bit of clarity without giving me that like, oh, it's 4 a.m. What have I done?
You know, it's just like it's a mental performance shot, is what it is, and it really gets you. It has just made me kind of so clear when I'm doing it. So I live by Magic Mind. I really do.
I miss it. Magic Mind, I miss you.
I miss it too.
I have but I have good news for people though too, because I'm going to put the link in the description, and we have a new deal, because the first month you can get a 3 sample pack for free. I got for 4th months after there's only gonna be like 10 users, they can get 40% off a subscription, and then there's 20% off for one-time purchase and subscription. So it's gonna be pretty good. It's gonna be pretty good. Okay, let's keep going. Let's keep moving. And we got some other stories that we got to absolutely discuss here today. And I don't know. I mean, it's amazing how much more stuff is kind of coming down the pike. Like how many more? I think right now everybody's talking about Agatha. Everybody's talking about Penguin, and then I don't know, man. Craven. You think is it? I know, Coy, you're the most excited about Craven, but I think we get Venom first. Right,
October,
and then Craven not too far in December or whatever. But is there any world that they both are gonna? I know you're gonna love them because you're excited about them, but you're excited about them. You've been excited about them, but
that Venom trailer was great.
I don't know about that.
The Venom 3, the most recent trailer, I dug it.
It looks good.
You think the Venom one looked good?
Yeah. Is it gonna be a good movie? No. But is it gonna be exactly what I want? Hell yeah, bro. Okay. Like I am of the mind. Look, if y'all think the Craven movie looks good, all right, then let me have this. All right, this is what you felt about Black Adam, where you were just like, it's just a popcorn, throw it in your mouth, like just enjoy the craziness. That's what I'm getting from this new Venom movie.
Now, but do you think Craven could shock you?
It's always possible. I'm not like I for the most part, I go into every single piece of media that comes up with just a blank brain, because you never know what could happen. I don't know if you guys, this isn't necessarily comic book related, I don't know if you guys have been watching English Teacher. That is probably the funniest show on TV right now. It is hysterical. It is absolutely hysterical. And so but I went in with this idea of like, I don't know, could this be an Abbott ripoff? I'm not sure, and I found myself vastly enjoying it. So I could do that with Craven. I could walk into Craven and be like, I don't expect much from this, and have my socks blown off. But we just gotta wait and see.
All right, Coy and Sam, you think? But which one? If I'm giving you one, you only get one: Venom or Craven. What do you take?
Quality or enjoyability?
One that you can see. You're only allowed to see one.
If I'm only allowed to
You're only allowed to see one.
I gotta stand on my boy Tom Hardy. Like, I love Tom Hardy, man. If I'm only gonna see one, like, not only is it bringing us Null, I can't wait to see who they cast as Null. Null is such a like metal, intense villain. Tom Hardy loves playing this character, and it looks like he's having a blast. We've had this trilogy, and I'm invested in it. I know that might be a poor choice of words for a lot of people, but I'm genuinely invested in it. So if I had to pick one, I do think Craven looks fantastic, but I've been vibing with Venom since I was a kid, and Tom Hardy's one of my favorite actors. I cannot deny that I think Eddie Brock is such a weird sense of humor that Tom Hardy is Venom to me. And a lot of people don't see him that way, but like the way Michelini and McFarlane represented this character when he was written is exactly what Tom Hardy's doing. So I'm all in. And then you add Null, like me and Donnie Cates, the guy that invented Null, along with Ryan Stegman, have been friends for like a decade. Like I've known Donnie almost as long as Null's existed. And I'm so invested in Donnie and Ryan's character because of them as humans that I don't know, I'm so connected to this movie in a crazy amount of ways.
Yeah, I would probably take Craven because I think that, and I probably wouldn't have said that in the beginning of the year because I was calling him like Craven the Fart Hunter at one point. But I think that I liked that trailer. I really liked that trailer. I haven't really been on. I'm a big Tom Hardy fan. I just haven't been on board with the Venom movies like at all, really. And I've seen 2 of them already. I get it. You know what I mean? Like this is like, okay, look, I just saw Transformers 1 last week or 2 weeks, whenever it was, and I thought that trailer was abysmal. I thought it was so bad. I thought it was going to be one of the worst Transformers movies ever, and I would probably say it might be the best Transformers movie ever. It was so good. It was, and I love being proven wrong about movies that I think is going to stink. I'd love Venom 3 to be the best out of it, but I also would love for Craven for me to go and, Coy, in what world did I going to have both Transformers 1 and Craven in my top 5 of the year? That's what I want to say. Now, the chances of that, slim to none. But I still want to like feel like that's an optimistic point of view.
I think the end of the year, it's going to be really interesting to look back because we kept feeling like a void of comic book stuff. I feel like we were talking about everything slowing down. We were talking about everything pivoting. We're watching Penguin and Agatha side by side as we lead up to Venom 3 and we round out the year with Craven. Like this year has been stacked with this stuff. We've got Joker coming out in a week.
Right.
It is comic book.
No, not a week. 2 weeks. 2 weeks.
2 weeks, sorry. October 4th feels like it's a week away.
It's
2 weeks till
2 weeks?
Yeah, dude.
Yeah.
Like it is crazy on these like comic book streets.
Yeah.
That's now. And then 2 weeks after Joker is Venom. And then mere weeks after that, these shows wrap up leading up to Craven. Like it's going to be interesting to look back at the year and realize how dense it was.
It's true. It really is true. And I am when Coy even says that, like all the stuff that's coming out, because I was thinking about it today. I was like, yeah, there has been August was pretty much kind of dead. And now it's like moving, right? In September, it's going to start with these 2 shows, with the other movies we got coming out. Oscar season's going to be hitting right around the corner. So there's tons of stuff. And I'm very curious of how it's going to shape up and what it's going to be. Because didn't we do it last year, guys, that we did the whole top 5 or top whatever many were movies. Because let's say this year there was what? There was how many movies do we have? We've got Venom, Craven, was
Joker.
Deadpool.
Oh, Madame Web.
Madame Web 5.
It was 6, right?
What's the 6th?
Let's do that again. Joker. Okay, coming out. Let's do the ones that haven't come out yet. Joker,
Venom,
Craven, Venom. Those are the 3 that haven't come out. Deadpool, Madame Web. Is that 5? Okay, so maybe that was it. So
unless you want to throw Transformers in there.
Nah, that's not a comedy. That's not.
And then show-wise, I mean, it's been insane. And we haven't even mentioned Creature Commandos, which is out in December.
Right. So
there's been a lot of shows.
There's been a lot of shows. Let's do one more story here, and then we'll get to the questions because we got 37 questions. Pretty
in
good.
In a row.
Yeah, we got some good ones. We got good questions. So let's get to this story here because I'm curious what you guys think about it. Justice League director Zack Snyder reveals which of his comic book movies he's the proudest of. I'm gonna guess that it's 300.
Oh, The Crow.
The Crow. Oh, The Crow. Right, Crow movie. There's another one that came out. Okay. Well, I was like, wait a minute. He didn't direct The Crow.
Zack Snyder's The Crow.
Yeah. Zack Snyder's comic book movies remain incredibly divisive among fans, particularly in the DC universe, but which of them is he proudest of? The filmmaker answers just might end up surprising you. Dawn of the Dead, which is somewhat ironically written by DC Studios boss James Gunn, was Zack Snyder's first feature, but 300 undoubtedly put him on the map as a filmmaker. The movie, deemed unfilmable by some, was a surprise hit and gave the future Justice League helmet the chance to later tackle another tricky adaptation, Alan Moore and Dave Gibbons' Watchmen. The likes of Terry Gilliam and Darren Aronofsky had tried and failed to do something with the property, and Snyder's Watchmen, which was strikingly comic accurate outside of the giant squid's absence, was released to mixed, albeit mostly positive reviews in 2009. Unfortunately, it just grossed $185 million on the then sizable $120. The movie hasn't quite managed to achieve cult classic status in the years since, but Watchmen still has its fair share of fans. Talking to comicbook.com about Netflix's Twilight of the Gods, Snyder was asked which of his comic book movies is he proud of and singled out Watchmen as a clear favorite. Well, weirdly, I kind of look at it two ways. Like, one, I think, of course, Man of Steel, BVS, Justice League is its own thing. I don't know necessarily whether it's a comic book movie in the classic sense for me, but I can understand how people would say that because those are the comic book characters and whatever, but that's just based on ideas that I had about comic book characters. I would have to say Watchmen, probably for me, just like the process of adaptation from comic book to movie design, all the things as we went from comic books to movie. I think Watchmen is like the cleanest and then kind of most satisfying transition to adapted material. HBO's Watchmen sequel was a critically acclaimed hit, but a recent animated version of the story appears to have come and gone with little interest from the fans of the original graphic novel. All right, it's funny because when I saw this article this morning, when I looked, I said, oh, he's going to pick Watchmen. And then as I'm reading through, I'm like, oh, I forgot about 300. He's going to say 300. So it's stuck with my original thought. Makes sense because that was, if you look at that movie, minus, again, the squid, it's about as clear and true and pretty much ripped from the page and put right onto it from the way that he filmed it. I thought it was a really solid job by him. And I don't know. I don't think we've ever really spoken about that movie on this show, guys. So, Winston, what were your overall thoughts on that movie and your thoughts on what Snyder says here?
Yeah, I would say that that's probably my favorite Snyder superhero film is Watchmen. I think, again, I agree. Not having the squid definitely changes stuff a little bit, but not in my mind as majorly. But I think you really nailed the tone of the characters, which is not something I can say about Zack Snyder always with comic book adaptations. All that being said, man, I think that he like kind of hit the nail on the head with that. It was the first time, really, because did that come out before 300? It did, right?
What?
Watchmen.
No, that was Watchmen.
It was after?
Yeah, that was 2000. I think 2005 or 2006 was 300.
Okay. Well, either way, I wasn't at that point yet where I was like, man, this man uses a lot of slow motion quite yet. And it worked, let alone some of the quotables. I don't remember the whole in the graphic novel about like, I'm not locked in here with you, you're locked in here with me. It's possible that was in there and I'm just forgetting, but I'll never forget that line. And then Rorschach just effing everybody up. I really feel like he hit the nail on the head, which is why initially when he was like, he's taking over DC and going with that, I was like, okay. It just wasn't my vibe, personally. Still enjoyed them at times, but it just wasn't how we've talked about it. See Superman, don't love how we kind of dealt or didn't deal with Robin. There's just like a lot kind of going on. That's not what we're here about. Watchmen would definitely be my favorite Snyder comic book adaptation.
Yeah, I would probably take, for my favorite, I would still probably take 300, but I still think that when you look at what he did with Watchmen, I think it's the most true to the actual source. But Coy, I don't know, where do you stand on all this?
I think Watchmen is unfilmable, and he did it somehow, and then the show somehow did it. I think Watchmen is one of those properties that is genius in its being a deconstructionist concept, and I think that's what he wanted to do and what he considered his Superman and Batman. But since we didn't have a Superman and Batman in pop culture at that point, really, it was hard to do a commentary on something that didn't really exist. We hadn't had a Superman movie in so long, and Batman. The Nolan films were so different that when you start to do a deconstructionist take on those characters, and it just feels like dishonest to the characters, whereas Watchmen is deconstructionist in its nature, so it felt more true to what Zack Snyder wanted to build. I think Watchmen is a better match for Zack Snyder in the same way, like, I would love to see a David Fincher Batman movie because he'd be a detective, but I wouldn't necessarily...
You already saw one.
Yeah, I loved it. It's my favorite Batman movie. Yeah. But I wouldn't necessarily want to see a David Fincher Superman movie because I think that his tonality doesn't match the altruistic, aspirational nature of Superman. So when you've got a deconstructionist director that does it really well, put him on a story that suits that, like Watchmen. And I think that and 300 are so true to what he wanted to make and to the story. Those are my two favorites. And Watchmen is comfortably one of the best adaptations.
Yo, Coy, this is going to be completely random, but you know who I would actually love to see do like a Robin's
Paul Giamatti
kind of like show? No, but like essentially what Gotham Knights did the game as far as having Red Hood, Nightwing, Tim Drake, Robin, and then Barbara, is to do that, have Donald Glover do a Robin's show or like and something like that. I feel like you get kind of that Atlanta / community tone to it. That would be hysterical and probably really good.
Dude, I would pay such good money to see 5 Robins sitting on a couch talking about their horrible relationship with Bruce. Like I could Atlanta the hell out of some Robins.
Dude, real talk. You and then Zazie essentially is Batgirl.
100%.
And so you have the 5 of them just chilling. Like what Damien's in there too, obviously, and it's just nonsense. Damien plays the one dude in season 2 that came out of prison and like was punching people and stealing stuff out the store, where he's just completely unruly.
And dude, Lakeith would kill as an unhinged Jason Todd. Like Lakeith under that red hood.
Yeah.
Well, that sounded like a whole bunch of language I didn't understand. So thanks for both of those
Cut
guys.
to the single of Christian just listening like,
for doing that. Well, I get to listen to you guys now. That's right. You guys put in all of your questions, and we're going to get to all of them. And before we do, as we get to your questions, I got to thank our wonderful sponsors this week, both Built and BetterHelp, and then we're going to get to all those. Let's do it. Built. I really hope that people are going to start taking advantage here of Built, because listen up, renters. If you ever feel like you're stuck in this loop of rent payments, just watching your money vanish into thin air, it is time to turn that rent game around and start earning some serious rewards, and that's where Built Rewards comes in. You've done that before. You've been there. You're like, I'm burning cash with all the rent checks. I'm there all the time. I feel like it. It's frustrating, but here's the deal. Built Rewards has figured out a way to make rent more rewarding. You say goodbye to the money bonfire and hello to a renter's revolution with Built. Built is breaking ground as a neighborhood rewards program that hooks you up with points on your rent. Every month, you pay your rent and you watch the Built points roll in. You can use your points to book fitness studio classes, redeem them towards a future rent payment. They are designed to meet your lifestyle. Pay rent hassle-free through the Built Rewards app. Your rent game just got a major upgrade. Built points have consistently ranked the highest value point currency by the Points Guy and Bankrate. Earn points by paying rent now when you go to joinbuilt.com/bigthing. That's joinbuilt.com/bigthing. And make sure to use our URL so they know that we sent you. Joinbuilt.com/bigthing to start earning points with your rent payments today. This episode is brought to you by BetterHelp. Let me ask you guys a question. What is something that you'd love to learn? As an adult, do you really make time to learn new things as often as you like? Or what was lost in childhood? My kids are always learning new things and always trying new stuff. And I see that wonderment. And I hear my daughter talking about learning a new language. And I'm like, I want to learn a new language. Well, therapy can help you reconnect with your sense of wonder, because your back to school era, it can really come at any age. So I think just talking to people in general has really helped so many people. I've talked about it on this show, how much BetterHelp has been beneficial to Roxy Stryer. She's talked about it, and she's been with BetterHelp for so long. Seen how it's not only helped her, people in my family have just being able to talk. So if you're thinking of starting therapy, you really should give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online. It's designed to be convenient, flexible, and it's suited to your schedule. You fill out a brief questionnaire to get matched with a licensed therapist, and you switch therapists anytime. No additional charge. So rediscover your curiosity with BetterHelp. You got to visit betterhelp.com/bigthing today. You get 10% off your first month. BetterHelp, HELP.com/bigthing. All right, thank you to our friends over at Built and, of course, BetterHelp. And as I mentioned beforehand, if you want to go, the link is in the description. Get yourself something. You help out the show tremendously. And for the people who have been understanding that, have been helping the show, and the reason we continue to do this show for as many years as we've been able to do it is because of people like you. So thank you. And also have to mention the great people that have been putting in some questions here today, just being involved in the live chat. Everything else has been so amazing. We got all these questions. We got 38 questions thus far. Roka will probably have some bragging rights here now. But who knows? I said that last week, and then Winston popped up with 106 questions. So who the hell knows?
Also, he can have this week all-time record. Say something, Roka.
Yeah, but until he, you know what he'll do is like, yeah, you might have an all-time record, but I beat you 5 weeks in a row. We'll see. But the first one, mild-mannered comic nerd. Coy, happy belated birthday, and congrats on being engaged. Tiger, you just hit the jackpot. That's what they say. Okay, there you go.
Thanks, man. I recognize that name. We've talked on the internet, and I appreciate just kind words. Thank you so much. It was a great birthday. I ended up on the East Coast. It was wonderful.
Well, he followed it up, and he said, if you could have any team up, this is for all of us, if you could have any team up from comics and TV shows, who would you team up? I'd love to see Nightwing and Spider-Man wearing the black suit. Then I would want to see Tony Soprano and Jackie Estacado. I'd want to see Tony Soprano and Walter White.
That's what I was gonna say.
Yeah.
If you're gonna go that route, I thought we were talking comic books. If we're talking
From
just
comics,
any characters,
yeah,
then yeah, you gotta go either Walter White and Tony Soprano. You could go maybe like it'd actually be really interesting to see like Gus Fring, and honestly, this version of Penguin. I feel like that would actually be a really interesting, like, just headbutting, to be honest with you.
It'd be really good.
I'm going to go Troy and Abed and Spider-Man.
Okay.
I want to see a little community Spider-Man team up. And if we're going more violent, I would love to see the George St. Pierre take on Batroc the Leaper and the cast of Kingdom and some MMA violence with Frank Grillo and Jonathan Tucker. I want to see like hand-to-hand combat shot well. Actually, all those are Russo brothers. Put the Russo brothers in charge of my TV comics.
You know what? Hiro from Heroes and Troy and Abed.
Ooh,
especially them all of a sudden being like, oh my God, Abed, he can travel through time. Like I feel like that would
It's a good one.
That would be amazing.
It's a good one. Spawn and Batman running around the joint together too would be interesting.
Yes.
Yeah. Mild-mannered comic nerd, Christian Winston, Corey, do you think juveniles back that ass up should be scientifically studied? Sure.
Absolutely. It has magical power. It's the first instance of true magic we have seen on this planet. So we 1,000% sure. You play that song, every ass within a 1 mile radius starts shaking. So you definitely should study it.
It is almost like a summoning spell for booty. Like it just causes magic.
Coy, that is my Witches Coven song. Is you roll back that ass up and all of a sudden Witches Road opens, bro.
That's right.
He's Juvie the Great, man. There's no one like him.
He follows it up with, gentlemen, who wins in a fight, Thor or Kratos? My money's on Kratos because he goes for the head. Yeah, I think Kratos is more that kind of killer instinct.
I think Thor from Norse mythology wins, but I think Thor from Marvel mythology loses.
Yeah,
so
he's got too much
Kratos
heart.
takes out Marvel Thor.
Flip.
Really?
Because Kratos, the way he massacres the Greek gods and obviously in his games and stuff like that. That's why I think just from the nature of Thor having taken on the whole idea of him fighting Old Man Logan with the Phoenix Force and the 1,000 Years battle, and there was another point in which he fought Doom that had like Sorcerer Supreme powers and all that kind of stuff, and also took on the Phoenix Force. Like Thor in Marvel comics always goes the distance, like almost always. And if he dies, comes back and beats the crap out of Tony Stark for cloning it. Like I think he could be Kratos, the Marvel iteration, but I think the Norse one would die.
Interesting. Okay, let's see. And then Email Nikolov. Thank you, Email. Matt Reeves and company have got the special sauce. The first episode of The Penguin was amazing. Colin Farrell and Kristen Milotti was next level. She was just perfect. She reminded me of Lydia from Breaking Bad. They're coming for those Emmys. I think that is accurate. And I get it's a comic book show. I get it, and I know that it's always hard to get critical acclamation from that stuff, but I will say this. I think that from even watching the first 10 minutes of that, Colin Farrell's unrecognizable in the role, not just because of the makeup.
I think Colin Farrell does two things, and these both sound hyperbolic, but I think adding the Penguin elements to this character make it even more impressive because he's playing like an incredible henchman becoming mafioso. He's trying to be like, this powerful thing, but he's adding like the shuffle and then the neck twitches, like that stuff to make it comic-y. That elevates it to me because it's more of a challenge to appease the comic book sensibility while being naturalized. But the other thing I'm going to say, which I've never said before, this is the first ever acting performance I would even put in the same category. Not saying it's better than, but in the same conversation with Heath Ledger's Joker.
Whoa.
I've never felt like I saw a performance where a character was in front of my eyes and the actor wasn't.
Well, I don't disagree with that.
All those things, but like, good God,
I don't disagree with that. That he just disappears. I mean, and even the accent that he's doing, like he's not trying to be an authentic kind of New York. He's taking like a New York meets old time gangster, and it's like and even his mom has that thing. You know, it's like there's a whole the way that they speak. It's like, old time, like he almost says like timey and things like that, or I can't remember the actual words that he's saying, but there's certain things that he says, and I was just like,
man, I know.
There's also
go ahead, Clay.
There's also the thing with his eyes. Like, I feel like when you get in a performance, you can still sometimes see the soul of the actor in their eyes. Like, you can see somewhere underneath stuff you connect to Colin Farrell. But here, it's like Heath Ledger, where when you see the Joker's eyes, that's not Heath. And to me, there's this incredible like middle distance stare where it looks like Oz is seeing the world differently in real time, and that's not how Colin sees the world. Like, right. I even feel like his soul is different in a way through that lens of the eyes that I've never seen since Heath.
And to be honest with you, that might be we had a conversation last week, Coy, about how Colin says he's done. Like, there's no way he's, you might get.
Well, he said potentially. He said no. He didn't say that he was done. He said what he said was. When they said, "Are you coming back?" He's like, "I don't know." There were times when I was just like, "I don't know if I can do this anymore." He didn't officially say he was done.
Fair, but he had alluded to the fact that sitting in the chair and everything that went into this was he may be done with it, right? That kind of acting work, and not even necessarily from the idea of full on going a full sociopath, but to get that lost in another character. I know you know this, Coy, because you have acted as well. That will drain the life out of you. It takes a lot of energy to fully shift your perspective like that, and to see what he has produced. I would not be surprised if he genuinely was like, "It's not just the makeup chair. This is sucking the life out of me."
It could be. It's a dark show. Ian Davis, love to get the capes and Cal's take on this movie assassin duel. Who wins, John Wick, Jason Bourne, or James Bond? John Wick. John Wick is a superhero now. You can throw him off.
Yeah, John Wick's immortal. Like, I don't know if the other two are.
Now, if you went John Wick movie 1, and then Jason Bourne or James Bond, that's a tougher one. After John Wick 4, you can't. He's a superhero.
Okay. I gotta go with Bond, bro.
Yes, I strongly disagree.
I understand, but you gotta remember, Bond been doing this forever. The gadgets. He has also survived things that make no sense. Like, I get what you're saying for sure. I don't think Bourne is really in the conversation, if we're being honest, between the three of them. But I feel like Bond has the side. Wick is more ruthless.
I think Bourne's more ruthless than Bond.
I think Bourne is a person, Wick is a myth, and I think Bond is an identity someone takes up and then is killed. I've always liked the idea that James Bond was a title, not actually a name, and therefore, the reason you got recasting is because someone embodies 007, it's not a man. So I think Wick is a myth. The only one of these that's human is Bourne.
Yeah, I would say death battle. I would actually say death battle, not just a fight. A death battle. That's
kind of where I'm cheating. I'm sure y'all have heard of the channel Death Battle, and they did one of this, and they broke down some of the reasons why. Like, it would be close, but Bond has the edge.
Yeah, I'm going. So slightly. I'll be in the opposite corner. I'm going Wick, Bourne, Bond.
Damn.
Yeah. He'd start in the middle of the fight. He'd see a woman walking down the street, and he'd leave to try to go pick her up. All right, let's.
No.
So Miguel Zane, hey y'all, wanted to ask the comic book people where to start with the JSA and the JLA in terms of stories or comics, and do you think Gunn will include in the DCU?
Sure. I defer to This Week in Comics.
I think Justice League's about to get a very, very, very approachable relaunch. So the Justice League in the comics hasn't been a team for the last couple of years because they've made Teen Titans kind of their forefront. So if you want to get into Justice League, now is actually a great time because it's about to reform in the next 3 months. Like, it's actually leading towards the Justice League. So that would probably be the most approachable. I would say if you want to go read the New 52 Justice League, that's probably the most recent and the more approachable. Because if you go back to the 60s and 70s, as a comic fan, I love that stuff, but it's old language. It's very dated in style. That might turn you off. But recently, the Justice Society of America had a relaunch with Michael Janin on art, and it's really some of the most beautiful stuff you'll see in comics. It's about 2 years old, 2022, I believe, that relaunch started. It's called Justice Society of America. It's only about 11 issues in. So Justice Society, go back to the Michael Janin art. Justice League, either New 52 or wait a couple months for this relaunch where you're going to get there. And Batman, Superman, and Wonder Woman are all getting a relaunch in this absolute imprint over at DC, where they're getting brand new number ones like Marvel had for their Ultimate stuff, so you can jump on that team over there with new number ones starting in late October. So now's a great time to be looking at all that.
That's exactly what I was going to say. All right, so
he was polite. He was like,
the next, Ian Davis, another dumb question for me: who wins, Lou Ferrigno, Hulk versus Eric Bana, Hulk versus Mark Ruffalo, Hulk? I think that if again, question of which one, I think Mark Ruffalo's Avengers won. That one wins.
If you go Mark Ruffalo, like Age of Ultron, Thor Ragnarok Hulk, I think he's taking that. If you're saying Professor Hulk,
yeah, that's what I mean. So,
I don't know about all that. Yeah, that would be my.
I think Ed Norton Hulk smokes them all.
That wasn't included. I agree.
Between the two,
well, that's a version of him. It just
technically,
but
I would say Ruffalo pre. Basically what Winston said. I think Ragnarok, Age of Ultron, and Avengers smokes them, but anything else, it's going Ferrigno.
Agreed. Ferrigno, interesting. I guess Bana, we forget sometimes.
I mean, Bana is you can calm him in memory. Like Bana was able to be nourished, whereas the other ones seem like actual monsters.
Wicked Art. I'm driving from Georgia to Indy to celebrate my grandma's 90th birthday. Congratulations to her, man. And have a great time and a wonderful time. And he follows it up. Will they ever show the X-Men with all their powers, like Storm choking people out by changing the air pressure, or Wolverine being more than a guy with claws but can speak 7 languages and being a martial artist of several styles? I feel like they will do that because I feel like Kevin Feige knows a lot about the X-Men and loves them. I feel like they might do that. What do you think, Coy?
I think the X-Men are going to be... I've always thought the X-Men are so much cooler than the Avengers. I like the Avengers, but the X-Men are like... I think people think the Avengers are the coolest because they didn't have the rights to the X-Men. Now that the X-Men are back, it's going to be a zeitgeist shift. But Kevin Feige is a tried and true X-Men fan. I think there'll be escalation because there will have to be. I think as long as audiences keep showing up, we'll get to that point. But you shouldn't introduce Storm that way because you need to have a place to go. You shouldn't introduce a too complicated version of anything. So if we get, X-Men 6, which I think we deserve, we'll get there. But people have to show up in order for the character to get to that level of their evolution. Like Omega level mutants aren't born, well, they are technically born that way, but they develop into that skill set.
I also could see a situation that, like, again, you don't want to dive right into it. I don't think you see the Storm choking people out via air pressure until maybe a second X-Men film, and it's because she's, her claustrophobia. She's trapped in like a small space and loses control just because she's lashing out to try and get, you know what I'm saying? And then all of a sudden everybody's like, Storm, calm the fuck down. Like, excuse me, my bad. But you know what I'm saying? Like, I feel like that.
It's like, it's unbelievable. It's unbelievable.
I got a little excitable. What can I say? But I don't think. Yes, I agree with Coy. You cannot show them at full power,
no, not right away,
doing things out of the gate because you then have nowhere to go.
No,
you held off on Mjolnir, Cap, and the word.
Yeah, you got to wait.
Symbol for a reason.
You got to wait. I agree. Heroic Hideaway. I saw Transformers last night and I loved it. Oh, it's so wonderful. Have you guys seen it yet?
No, I'm so excited.
My plan tonight. The missus is off on a girls' trip, so I'm gonna go catch up on some movies.
Text me after you see it, man, because I'm really curious. It's really I don't say it a lot, but it's wonderful. It is. Matt Sinister McCall, on the count of 3, scream Jeff Snyder's name. No. I love you.
We'll summon him like the Battle Gun.
It's true. I'll do Jeff Snyder, the Booker T version. Deadly One Ace Awoken saw Transformers 1 last night. Amazing. Yeah, people are digging. I'm so glad that's a movie that I think is going to do so much better because of word of mouth.
Dude, did you see the NFL Transformers 1 commercial?
No.
It's amazing. So what they did is they took you see like it's like action figure, like stop motion, playing a football game, and then all of a sudden there's 2 Megatrons, and then someone goes, you can't have 2 Megatrons, and then it's Calvin Johnson, who had the nickname Megatron, And then who plays him in this? Is Brian Tyree Henry?
Yes.
Oh, that's so good.
So they're like, hey man, like, look, I know you were Megatron. I'm Megatron now, and then Scarlet comes in as her character. Like, it's a really fun.
That's
commercial.
cool. That's cool. Yeah, it's a great movie. So go check it out. All right, we're 2 away from 40, guys. 2 away. We at least,
Let's go.
Roxy was 55 yesterday, but 2 away from 40. John Holloway puts in a nice 199 and follows that up with another one. Says, how good was the Penguin? Great beginning. Fantastic beginning. I'm so locked in. I can't wait. There's only one episode up right now, which I love. And it'll be up next week will be episode 2. So people can watch it week to week. That show did not need to put 2 out right away to get people locked in. It was smart. It was very smart. Kick It to the King Productions. Great name. Can you say whether Sony Marvel films going forward post Craven will only see the light of the day per the approval of Kevin Feige? That's more important. Well, the question is this. Inside of the Spider universe, I don't know if he has that power. I think it's more so about being able to control where Spider-Man lives in the MCU and how much they can use him. That's the basis of that deal, more so than having his hands involved in the other Sony stuff, because that's not the deal, and he doesn't, and Sony also wouldn't want him to get involved in that because there's too much. But I don't know. You guys disagree with that?
No, I think that's kind of where it's at. It's just the idea that he doesn't control Sony. You might get him being like, but we would never hear about it, being like, hey, maybe don't do this because of that. But I don't think he's going to have that pull. He's not in their studio, and they unfortunately are still on loan. They're getting Spider-Man and whatnot on loan because the rights were sold. So it is what it is.
I think it's interesting. We've heard things like Spider-Man 2099 was supposed to be like in some stuff, but Sony said no. I think that's the stuff that's going to change. I think Sony's going to want more play than less. But I don't know if they could even legally have Kevin Feige running that level of things at Sony without him being like actually at the company. I could see there being a stronger restriction on the in association with Marvel Studios banner, where obviously anything that's using Marvel characters will have that. But the average person, when they see a Marvel in red, it doesn't matter that it says in association. They go, it's a Marvel movie.
Right.
I could see Kevin Feige wanting more of a conversation because of that, but I don't know what that would look like in a contract.
That's a good point. Darth Vader's burnt asshole might be a hot take, but I'm glad Sony kept Spider-Man from Disney. I like that they're sharing for sure, but if it was owned by Disney, we would never have gotten Spider-Verse. The Sony-verse ain't great, but I'm glad it exists. It's a fair point. Fair point. We don't necessarily know if it wouldn't exist. You never know the kind of deals they would have made. Maybe Lord and Miller came in because those guys are big Spider-Man fans, so they could have come in, pitched it, and said, "Look, we want to do this," and you might have gotten it over there, but. I don't know. What do you think, Coach?
I got a Star Wars reference.
Yeah, go ahead.
I don't think that would have happened because the way they got treated on Solo. I think Disney burned that bridge pretty heavy. So I think he's right. I think,
but that's different because it wasn't. The question is this: from what we hear, because we don't really know the behind the scenes there. What I heard is that it was mostly a clash between them and Lucasfilm and not Disney. So if it was but you're not wrong. If it was more of a Disney thing, then they're like, well, I don't want to be involved in that. But from what I heard, it's not them not working with Disney again. It's and they won't ever work with Lucasfilm again. That's what the rumors are.
I mean, we wouldn't have gotten it just in the sense that you got to remember, even if some of the key players are the same, if you don't have the same scenario, if you don't have all the variables lining up, you don't get the answer to your equation.
Yeah.
You might get a variant of it. That's the whole point of the multiversal saga, is that if we have all of these things that are similar, then we got something that looks the same, but it's not the same. But I don't necessarily think, especially knowing that we've seen how Disney has kind of done this weird spiral, and now they're just kind of like coming out of the concussion protocol, that, you know, that's where we are now. We wouldn't have gotten Spider-Verse the way that it is, but we may have seen a project similar.
True. Next question, Armada. What's Richard's thoughts on Longlegs?
Oh, listen, I got to be honest with you. I didn't know what to expect. I mean, Christian didn't even know that it was Nicolas Cage for like a full hour. I thought it was Mickey Rourke at one point. He thought it was Jon Voight. I was just hoping he wouldn't come out and bite me on the balls.
Oh, thanks, Richard.
Jesus.
Appreciate that. All right, next one. Rory, great show, Harloff. Loving the new layout. Thanks, man. I appreciate it. I appreciate all the support, and you guys have been in here every day asking great questions and closing out the show with some really solid stuff. So thank you very much. Mike Joyce, one of the people who's always in here. Every day we see something from Mike Joyce. We got Venom Fish and Venom Horse in Venom 3. If you can pick one animal for the Venom symbiote to bond with, what would it be?
An eagle.
Mm.
Ah! Like try to do an eagle scream and it just comes out as like I don't know. Just that by itself both sounds terrifying and hilarious.
Say a swan.
Oh, they're so violent.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go the opposite. I want to see a conflicted, peace-loving Venom capybara.
All right.
Because capybaras love everything. I want to see a symbiote try to make a capybara violent because they're just such a vibe.
Coy, you crazy. You're so different. All right,
Yeah, we're different.
Undead Sick 83. A piece of the black symbiont left behind in the MCU reality. Kingpin running for mayor. Peter meeting Matt Murdock. His friends forgetting he's Spidey, etc., etc. Spider-Man 4, I hope. Back in black? Question mark. I really, really hope that they do stuff where it's... I mean, it does look like they're going to rely on a lot on the Venom stuff, but taking off of our main story here, right? That is a way, and from that previous question that was just asked about how Feige gets involved in the Sony stuff. Well, if you put Tom Hardy, the rumor was Tom Hardy's going to be involved in the next Spider-Man 4 movie, potentially, right? If you put those two in, and now Feige's involved with it, and now that's a way to get Sony's Venom with Marvel's Tom Holland, that could be interesting to see. I still wish it was street level, but to see it all kind of get connected to let... I don't know.
The only thing I will say about that, because like yes, that would breed the element of you're bringing in a Venom from another universe, but Venom as even part of the Rogues Gallery, even though it being an alien symbiote, still feels street level at times just based off of the things that Venom is doing. Like it really could be Venom terrorizing New York City, and I'm not going to get the implications of Spider-Man having to help fight Thanos, or the Skrulls are here, and he's having to figure out which one is a Skrull. Like it still would feel a little more grounded, just knowing that that's like one of his main arch rivals. But I understand you're still implying there were universe jumping and blah blah blah. But anyway,
yeah.
I could also say, I mean, everything would be worth it if we see the post-credit scene of Venom 3 be the white spider forming on his chest. Like that we'd lose our minds. No, just the white spider Venom.
For Spider-Man. I thought you were talking about Eddie turning into Anti-Venom.
Oh, no. I'm saying like we haven't seen Eddie with the white spider yet. Like that would be an insane setup of like, right? We literally haven't seen that. So that'd be an insane setup for Spider-Man 4
we'll see.
Did I just unlock the Last Dance? Do you think he's going to turn into Anti-Venom?
I think that could be not visually, but I think that it's going to be Spider-Man and Venom teaming up to fight Null in Spider-Man 4 potentially.
All right. Well, we'll find out very, very soon because the movie's coming out. I mean, it's going to be up with a blink of the eyes. Let's see. Next one. Buckteeth Bandit. Reeves said that the script for Batman Part 2 is done, which makes sense when you consider that all this stuff is coming out now, too. They're pushing for... When does the Batman 2 supposed to come out? 2026? Is that what they're saying?
Yeah, they're supposed to start shooting early 2025, but right now the trickiness is it was supposed to be Q1 2025, but Greg Fraser is shooting Dune 3 next year, and Greg Fraser is a huge part of the visual language.
Are you sure?
Movie.
Because I don't think that they announced that they're definitely shooting it yet.
That's what I thought. I thought the conflict was Greg Fraser, so I'm not sure, but I thought he was booked on two things.
Because when Denis Villeneuve was talking about Dune 3, he said this is the idea, and they said there's a project that he's got working on. People assumed that it was Dune 3, but we'll see. We'll see. Dennis Hoffman. I love Kate Stegman's Venom run. Excited to see Null in Venom 3. Think Hardy continues as Venom past The Last Dance?
Kate Stegman, so I was talking about Donnie Cates and Ryan Stegman, the homies. I love those guys. I think that we don't see a Venom 4, but I think we see Venom potentially in Spider-Man 4 and Secret Wars, but I don't think we see more Venoms.
Yeah. I think you're looking at it the same way you looked at say Iron Man. Once Iron Man 3 happened, you didn't get another Iron Man movie, but Tony was everywhere. I could totally see if Tom Hardy really still enjoys playing this character and everybody feels comfortable with him moving forward, that you see him everywhere, but he wouldn't have any more solo films.
All right. This is Matt Sinister McCullough. As a kid, I always had a crush on X-Men Mystique. It would suck, though, if I was hooking up with her and she turned into an old Al Pacino suddenly.
She'd probably do it just to mess with you. I mean,
true.
Lord knows every time she almost hooked up with Logan, she would just start flipping.
Yeah.
She'd just be like, "Is this what you really want, or do you want this?" Like it's like he probably would get Al Pacino.
Yeah, in the middle of it. Hey, wait a minute, that doesn't go there. Uh-oh. Okay.
That Dunkachino ad that'd be special.
Hilarious. Awkward silence. If you guys could choose one comic book storyline to use for the next Phase 3 MCU saga, which storyline would you choose? Coy, Winston? Coy, what do you got?
Phase 5.
No, if you could use for the next 3 phases of MCU saga, which storyline?
Oh, okay. So just a huge overarching story going forward.
Yeah.
Ooh. I think that they should either fix Secret Invasion by actually telling a cosmic story with Secret Invasion, but the show kind of ruined that potential. I think Secret Wars could be a giant overarching story, but I feel like they're going to rush toward for Doom. So, I mean, that seems like Nova's coming, so maybe some of the cosmic stuff of that. Winston, what do you got? I'm brainstorming.
I would probably do a blend of Civil War 2 and Avengers versus X-Men. I think like you have the one element where you're showing the X-Men, you have another element where you're rebuilding the Avengers, and then just that whole kind of storyline of because what the kid in Avengers versus in Civil War 2 was an Inhuman, if I remember correctly.
Yeah. You would just switch that.
Yeah, and then on the flip side for Avengers versus X-Men, you have the idea that the Phoenix Force is coming back. They want to give it to Hope Summers so she can potentially save mutants. So I think that would give you room to do House of M. That would give you room, like you don't need to go into the Inhumans, but you could maybe have it just as a mutant. That's a whole thing, and then that's where that fight and conflict comes in. And then ultimately, I don't know what big bad you would plug in at the end to kind of shift it and be like, okay, we need to put our crap aside.
Yep.
But even if it ended up being Cyclops, I mean, because that's the ultimate big bad at the end of Avengers versus X-Men, I feel like that would be cool too.
All right. Well, thank you for
I was
that
thinking too much of what we've already planted seeds of. I like Winston's better, that one.
Okay. All right. Let's see. Next one. And this is from Mr. I Crapishits. Hey, guys. I just want to say hi, Christian and Coy. I've been a fan since the Collider days. No one can fill Schnepp's shoes, but Coy did a great job. And Winston, you're effing awesome. There you go.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. K. Shits. That was very nice of you. Matt Sinister McCall. Favorite Funko Pop. Also, The Irishman sucks, Coy. Hey, no, it doesn't. No, it doesn't. Stop. All right.
Favorite Funko Pop. I've got a Carnage that I love dearly. I've also got a Goose the Cat that looked like Spidey. And Funko made me a custom koi pool for doing their panel at San Diego Comic-Con. So that I hold dearly.
Awesome.
I'm Coy. I'm special.
Yeah, for real. Come on, bragger. Afik Othman. Here's some love, and all the way from Malaysia. Thank you, Afik. That's very kind of you. To which Mr. I comes back in and says, sorry, Christian, but here we go, Brownies. Here we go. Woof, woof, beat the Giants. Right now, the Giants and the Knolls, I feel like my 6-year-old could beat them by herself. But I'm there for him. We'll see what happens.
Bad, bro.
Bad. It's bad. Albert Glowacki, mayor of Easttown, by the way. Yeah, I know. I was kept saying mayor of Eastwick. But you know why I went
Witches of
there.
Eastwick, mayor of Easttown. I get it.
I got there. Penguin was awesome. It sure was. It really was great. And then Chris Jones. Did you guys watch the Terminator Zero anime? Everybody tells me how great it was, and I still haven't checked it out yet. Did you guys see it yet?
I haven't. No. I need to. I like I said, if I'm the one that's gonna say I go in with a blank mind, I just have been so turned off by Terminator stuff for like years now that I'm scared to do that. But I should give it a shot.
Did you try Arcane yet?
Okay, I saw the first episode.
It's great, right?
It slaps. It slaps.
I told you.
I'm gonna have to go through it and get through the first season. I might do like a season.
You should. Coy, did you watch Arcane yet?
I haven't seen Arcane or Terminator, but I have a pitch for Winston. It's direct. Winston, do you remember how much you love the Perfect Circle comic book?
Yeah.
That is the same writer as the Terminator series, Mattson Tomlin. He's incredible.
Yeah.
Go watch Terminator. You specifically, you love Mattson Tomlin.
And I know you're not a big animation guy, Coy, but Arcane it's next level.
You're not an animation guy.
I just don't connect to the characters as much as live action. I'm not against it. I just don't connect.
I think
you read comics for a living.
I connect to me directing the panels. I'm the director and the actor.
I'm telling you, dude. Watch the first. Like I told Winston, watch the first episode of Arcane because the second season comes out soon. It's really great. Jacob Pynchon, since getting into comics, I'm less reliant on movies, TV for superhero stories. A certain online cult would be a lot happier if they actually read one. I mean, it's a great there's so many people there's so many comics I'd love to get into. I mean, there are ones that I just remember the one that I never couldn't put down, and I think it was just too bad that the series didn't work out, is Why the Last Man was just so brilliant. I love that was the one that stood out, and I was hoping, couldn't wait, and then that series came out, and I was like, dang. All right.
Yeah, Brian K. Vaughan's a genius, man. If you like that book, you can pick up any of his stuff and dive in.
Yeah,
Saga.
Really, really good. Nerdy Mastermind. James Gunn confirmed that this was the first DC Studios production they had a hand in and gave notes on. If Penguin is the kind of quality we can expect from DC under Gunn, they're going to dominate. Well, I don't think that's necessarily fair, though, because Matt Reeves was also, cooking in the kitchen before they were there, and it looked very similar. Not to say that, look, why wouldn't it help to have creative minds like that to say, hey, guys, what do you think of this? And then they say, but let's not give them all the credit for, I'm not saying that he is, but let's not give them credit for this one just yet. But if they understand that this is, the type of stuff they should be making, what James Gunn, I feel, is, here's and again, get ready for some of those comments to say, you look at if James Gunn looks at this series and says, oh, wow, people are really responding to this. Let's make a few more in the actual DCU with this kind of tone. Let's do this. As opposed to, Andor really worked. Should we do a third season? No. Why? Because it doesn't fit George Lucas's philosophy. It's like, so that's the kind of stuff that I'm talking about. So it's like, but I think James Gunn will say that works. Okay, next one. This is C Black. I thought the new rumor was a Spider-Man 4 would take place on Battleworld. What the hell's that? What is that?
It's the world that Doctor Doom kind of runs as a world between worlds for Secret Wars. So it's like, imagine an entire planet of chaos and violence. And the idea was Spider-Man's multiversal movie might take place there because it's set to come out right between Doomsday and Secret Wars. So canonically, Doom running a world between worlds would fit in that storyline. But I really hope they don't throw away a Spider-Man movie to just do that.
But I also thought, Coy, correct me if I'm wrong here, I thought that the Beyonder is the one that made Battleworld, and then Doom usurps him because he's like, I'm not going to be your pawn, but I will
100%.
be the king. Yeah. So,
I just don't know if they're bringing in Beyonder. That's the only reason I didn't mention him, because I don't think the MCU. I mean, I want them to. A track-suited Jerry curled Mark Hamill is my dream, but I don't know if it's going to happen.
Interesting. All right, so this is Jacob Pinchin. Coy, please help me out with current 616 continuity. Is Venom War and TASM both 616, that's The Amazing Spider-Man, I assume, was great bumping into you at San Diego Comic-Con right before the drone show?
This is a great question. I also love Christian, like the 616 universe being, I never even thought of it as 616. But yeah, that Christian, that's like the main continuity in comic books is 616. So he's asking if Venom War, which is the big summer event that's wrapping up, or kind of like midway, it's their fall event with Venom, is tying into Amazing Spider-Man. I honestly don't think that the TASM team is even talking to the Venom War team. That seemed like its own thing for a while. They're getting off of that current continuity of TASM, so I could actually see Venom War tying more into where Spider-Man's going in the future. They're all technically 616 because the events of Venom War spin out of the stuff that was happening with Al Ewing's Venom run and the Carnage stuff, so technically it all is connected, but I would look more towards the future of Spider-Man than the past or present.
Well said. This is the next one. Ralphie King. What do you think of the Absolute comic designs?
Oh, I love them. Winston, are you reading the Absolute? Or are you planning to read the Absolute stuff that drops soon from DC?
I plan to, yeah. I haven't, because right now I'm just finishing up all the kind of fail-safe Zur-Nar Batman type stuff that's going on, and then that is leading into is the Absolute's not the one that's going on with now Waller is teamed up with like fail-safe and everything else, is it?
No, that's a confusing. That's Absolute Power, which is far too similarly named.
That's why I was confused. Okay, that is where I'm at right now. But please refresh me on Absolute then.
Absolute is basically their Ultimate Universe, so they're going to be restarting with new number one. So Batman is this beastly Frank Miller looking design with the giant squared out. So it's a new number one jumping on point for anyone that's never read a comic. New continuity, new origins, new everything. Anytime you take a swing that wild, I'm always going to jump in. So I'm excited, but a lot of people don't love the designs. I think it's a cool swing. We'll see how it works.
Okay. Next one is Matt Sinister McCall. How does Fantastic Four thing use his thing? I think the answer is he doesn't. That's why he's all pissed off all the time.
I would be really mad.
Yeah.
I would be really mad.
Can't use it. Yeah.
This question was asked in Mallrats years ago, and Stan Lee didn't even have the answer.
It's perfect. Jacob Pynchon. Coy, do you like the new Power Girl run and the name change?
It works for me. I don't love it. I think it's a fun run. It doesn't usually make my top 9, but it's definitely I look forward to it when it pops up as a very like easy read. It's a fun, simple read. I really like comics when they actually have an element of romance that feels natural, so I like it for that. But the name change hasn't really affected me because I was never as attached to Power Girl as many characters. So it's kind of just, it's nice to be a civilian on that book and be like, oh, cool.
All right. Emil Nikolov. Rumor is that Sean Durkin, who did the Iron Claw, is directing multiple episodes of The Lanterns. The team Gunn is assembling for that show is incredible. Now, this is what I will say, as I've been giving credit to Gunn for this. If you look at the stuff that he is putting together and looking at the directors and the writers, and whether you look at the stuff he's doing for Lanterns in general, I mean, Lanterns look like he might as well be putting together stuff that's going to win Emmys for the next 40 years. You know, it's like the team he's got together here is incredible. I mean, and trying to get like one big star. Is there any movement? Either one of you guys heard about any new movement on the potential Hal Jordan?
I think with no movement since the rumors, but I think Jon Stewart's been cast.
You think Jon Stewart's been cast? Who do you think it is?
I don't think we have a name, but I think that 2-3 days ago, randomly, James Gunn posted without a caption a picture of Jon Stewart on his wall. I think James Gunn uses social media as like Facebook memories, like I do, where it's like, I'm going to post this thing so I remember the context.
Facebook memories.
I dead ass think that he just posted that to be like, what day did we cast? Blah, blah, blah. I really think Jon Stewart has quietly been cast. He was like, post for me for later.
Interesting. But Winston, what do you think about did you ever see the Iron Claw?
I didn't.
Man.
No, I didn't.
Okay, so the Iron Claw
wrecked me.
So the fact that they're getting,
I know what it is. You guys told me what it is. I just haven't seen it.
The fact that they're getting that director, plus the other showrunners and everybody else to this show's, I think this show's going to be special. It's funny because I was always interested. I was interested in the Lantern stuff and going, okay, yeah, let's, because the Green Lantern didn't really get his, due in that movie. So I was like, I want to see how they bring that to fruition. And now with everything else involved, it's becoming highly anticipated for me.
Well, it's like, I feel like Superman has to kind of reestablish the DCU, but I feel like Green Lantern is a character that's never been done right on the live action scale.
That's correct.
Yep.
So I think it's an interesting high stakes thing for both of those two properties specifically.
Agreed.
I really hope that they don't, I don't think they're going to change the power set too much, but I think the one thing that I didn't love is them kind of hardcore tweaking Miss Marvel. I know it's a little different there. I hope we don't end up in a situation like that and they find a practical way to use the lantern rings and have it be fully what they're supposed to be able to do,
Okay. Mike Joyce, isn't Norman Reedus playing Null? Is that true?
It's the rumor, but it's not been substantiated enough for me to buy it. Like it's like someone said it, then it got everywhere. I have to wait and see for me to believe
Is Norman Reedus in the new Venom?
If he is, he's Null. That's the rumor.
Oh, okay. Christian Medard. I can't see Null being stopped by just Venom and Spider-Man. Null killed the Sentry and Celestials. Is he that powerful? No.
Null is like one of the most metal characters. He's a god who, when the Celestials invaded his darkness, got mad at them for bringing light to his void and killed them with this Null Necro Sword. And the Necro Sword is actually, ironically, the sword we saw in Love and Thunder. I doubt they'll tie it into Gore, but that sword became like this entity of pure power. He's like the god of the symbiotes. He's a very powerful creature.
Okay, yeah, because when you were mentioning that, it kind of sounds like what they were trying to do with Christian Bale. Who did I just have? We've been taping Matt Serra's show. He's got 2 episodes out so far, and him and his co-host Phoenix Carnival just did Batman films, which will come up on Tuesday. But they were talking, and somehow, Christian Bale obviously came up throughout the conversation, but they started talking about Thor: Love and Thunder, and just like just a complete drop. That could have been so good. Oh, it could have been so good.
Yeah.
Could have been so good. Okay, next one, and this is Eric Ruby. How many Silver Age 1960s Avengers will show up in Fantastic Four? That's a good question. Stumped them in their tracks. Look at that. Well done.
I could see an OG Ant-Man, original Pym. I think it's going to be the nerds. It's going to be like the brains, but it's a good way to kind of have variants on characters. Obviously, you can't have Tony Stark in there because he's...
Might have Howard, though.
Interesting. I wonder how they're going to do that. The whole thing, how they're going to set up everything. Shay Markel, I don't know about you guys, but I think Darkwing Duck would make a good animated trilogy. Also, go watch Arcane, you psychos. That's right. So true. I'm telling you, Arcane is the absolute best. It's so good. I've watched it twice now. Darkwing Duck fans?
I would love a noir Darkwing Duck. Yeah. I'd love like an intense trilogy. Yes.
All right. So here is test. Is Secret Wars a last chance for old Marvel cameos? I'm loving the cameos, but sadly feels like this is the last chance morality-wise to get it. Yes, I think it's the last chance, and it should be. Let's end it after this. No more. Rely on Fantastic Four. Rely on X-Men movies. Rely on that. You don't need any more cameos. Winston, do you think this is the end of the cameos after Secret Wars?
It's got to be. I think not permanently, but it's going to get dialed back a lot. I think it's going to be dialed back a significant amount, and it's like, get it out of your system, and we're on to, because the other thing that you're going to run the problem to if you keep doing this, you're going to start handicapping your movies that the only thing that's doing it is because it's like, oh my God, so-and-so that said they always wanted to play, Dazzler, they're like, they there. That's crazy. Taylor Swift is Dazzler, boom, man. And then nobody's like going to like actually enjoy the movie. You need to get to a place where you can just enjoy the movie for what it is.
Cool.
I think people already like it bothers me a lot when people are like, No Way Home only works because of nostalgia bait. It's a lack of media comprehension that like the using Spider-Man as his own Uncle Ben, the way they established Lost, like all those things really work for me. But every time you use a cameo, people lean on that. Like people go like, well, it's not this because of this. And I think it's short-sighted, but I do think it's something that Marvel has to steer away from because of people not looking into it any deeper. All
right, let's see. So two more. We have Alaska Winter, 923. What if any underrated cartoon from the 80s, 90s that haven't had a live-action remake would you like to see attempted? Well, the ones that I would say are, well, there's a few. Mask is one, for sure. I would say Thundercats, which they've been talking about for quite a while, and one that nobody on this panel is ever going to hear of, and a lot of you probably don't know it. It's called Black Star, and a lot of the animation for that was eventually used to make He-Man. But John Blackstar is about an astronaut that gets put on this other planet, and him and this kind of dark warlord have two sides of this sword, and they've got it's a really good kind of fantasy. So I would like to see that. But do you guys have anything in mind?
Bro, honestly, this is going to be a throwback. It only had 13 episodes. Bucky O'Hare.
What the hell is that?
Go like
that 80s?
That's 80s, bro. For those that know, you know, and if you don't, go look it up. Bucky O'Hare was my
Coy?
I don't even know if I'm allowed to say the HORNY word on YouTube Live, but I'm going to be HORNY on main and say heavy metal. I think be like, I'd love to see, because heavy metal is, we have so much that is fantasy and highbrow concepts delivered in fantasy that is all ages. But I think the way to make it seem like not kid stuff is to lean aggressively the other way. And there's some beautiful stuff in heavy metal that I think would be a really cool way to mature up the genre.
Great one. Okay, let's see. Sergio C. Paul Giamatti should be the Green Lantern. For people who don't understand that joke, that's an inside joke that's been going on for at least, it's got to be almost a year now. Where what was it? Who did you say that Paul Giamatti should be that we gave you crap for?
Was it Dr. Doom?
I think so. It was Dr.
So, yeah,
Doom.
it's been almost a year because now it's Downey.
Yeah.
And if you told me a year ago that Downey would be Doom over Giamatti, I would have called you a liar.
I know. The truth.
It was when Oppenheimer came out, because that's around when they were talking about who from Oppenheimer, and I was like, nah, Paul Giamatti.
And I never forget. I went like this.
Paul Giamatti's not an Oppenheimer.
No,
because he was
an Oscar. It was a little. It was about a year ago, because it was when all the award stuff was happening.
It was the last Oscars, because that's when Downey won, and then Giamatti won him. He won too, didn't he? It was
around when all the awards things were happening at the end of it, whether it was Oscars or whatnot. But around that, Joe Hendo TV. Any interest in Superman and Lois season 4? I've heard nothing but great things about that show. I've never seen a single episode.
exact same, and I'm a big fan of Tyler Hoechlin.
Me too.
I've not seen a single episode.
Me too. I heard nothing but great things. I hear great things about the show. As of right now, this is the last one with 48 questions for today. Ewok, just joining now, so sorry if you've covered this, but did you see that Matthias Schoenaert has apparently been cast as a Supergirl villain? We did not cover that, and thank you for bringing that up, because I did see that, and I was going to cover it.
He is perfect.
So what's the role? What's the role?
So they're in the story. A little girl is kind of like a lone wolf and cub story, and Supergirl doesn't want this little girl to kill the awful man that killed her parents. She wants to take on that burden herself. She doesn't want the innocence of this child to be besmirched by killing. So Supergirl's like, I'm gonna do it. And so there's this beautiful story of her trying to keep this innocence. And this guy is so ruthless, so evil, so corrupt, so vile that you're like, no, he deserves to die. And I think Matthias would crush that. He's like a barbarian, but a little bit more civilized. He's like an evil knight kind of vibe.
He's a great actor. We had a chance.
That's a good looking dude.
He's
handsome.
He came into Collider. We had him on Collider Live once. He's a good dude. So, all right, guys, we did it. Good start for Corey on his first show. Almost 50 questions. It's a pretty good start. We had a good week this week in general.
Almost half a Winston's.
That's right.
Too bad we couldn't get to the new 52, bro. That would have been dope.
Can we also acknowledge that it's finally DC season to the point that this episode is 80% DC, and that makes me real happy because I don't want one to win. I just, balance-wise, it's been 5 years of us just talking Marvel.
Because there's more.
It's nice.
But we said that. We told people.
We knew this was coming. I'm glad to acknowledge it's happening.
Of course. There were tons of people who kept saying, well, you guys cover Marvel or stuff because that was the news at the time. The news now is that because once DC starts to kick into the gear that they're kicking in, there's going to be a lot more DC stuff to cover. So
it also makes me wonder. It was like, okay, yeah, we talked mainly Marvel, but did you see all of our coverage on Peacemaker and like when the first Joker came out and like if it was there, we talked about it.
Interesting.
It just makes me happy because I've been saying that it's only going to make Marvel better that DC does great and vice versa. If there's two studios killing it at the comic book game, everyone wins. And as a comic fan, not a tribalism fan, this is exciting.
Well, that's the thing, though, out of the three of us, that if DC delivers in the way that in the tone and the stuff that they've been setting up, like I respond more to that stuff. I respond more to the gritty stuff. I respond more to the villains that they have in general. Superman was always my favorite out of all of it. So I just haven't had a working DC in a in a form that I was like, oh, I can't wait for the next one and the next one. So I'm hoping that was it. So I lied. There's one more, and maybe you stop at 49. Jacob Tizano, long-winded question that if you can choose a comic book story to get a Lords of the Ring treatment, one director, one vision, what would it be, and who would direct with any cast? That's such a hard one. It's a great question, but it's a hard question because it's like, who's making. It depends on who really wants to do it. As far as it's a pitch in the room. Who's the director that comes in and goes, look, I want to do this. I want this thing to happen. Is it Matthew Vaughn? I don't know. Matthew Vaughn though is coming off of a loss right now with Argyle.
I don't think that and it's a little too fantastical, but if you wanted to tell like kind of a House of M story and let Nolan take it, I would be kind of interested to see. He doesn't necessarily, he tends to make his stuff a lot more grounded.
Yeah.
But just knowing how well he does with an epic story and it's like, give me time to cook. I feel like just the political element of House of M, of genuinely how Wanda is kind of losing her mind, but you're building up, Magneto's family and all that kind of stuff. I think it would be very interesting.
Okay. Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Mine is tricky because it's a character that has arguably too much screen time, but I think the only way to keep the character, like if you're going to do the character, you have to reinvent the wheel. I would do Denis Villeneuve directing a trilogy dealing with the Eastern versus Western sensibilities of Wolverine.
Oh, wow.
I've always loved that Wolverine is a man that is out of time and space because he lives too long to feel like chronologically like he's in place, but he's also physically in the Western culture while having great respect for Eastern culture. I've always loved that Wolverine's an outsider, and I feel like in the Hugh Jackman take, we've only gotten Wolverine as an outsider in like commentary, not like the movies feel like it. You know what I mean? Like he picks up Rogue and then he's welcome to the X-Men, and they don't really like they never really lean into that. Even in Old Man Logan's take in Logan, it felt like he belonged. And I would love to see Denis, who does such a good job of people feeling like they're removed from the world they're thrust into.
Yeah.
And I don't want X-Men involved at all. I would love a trilogy, Lord of the Rings style, where he, after his trilogy, gets brought into the X-Men, so we already love him. So I'd love a Denis Villeneuve Wolverine trilogy.
Okay. And this is number 50. 50 and 51 came in while you guys were. Thoughts on Bucky being the lead for Thunderbolts? Was that announced? Is he the lead now?
It's been like heavily rumored. Also, as far as star power, I feel like he's the only Phase 1 guy.
Okay. Yeah, I haven't heard that. And then finally, Eddie Alidia, Scott Eastwood for Cyclops. I don't think Scott Eastwood is that strong of an actor.
Yeah,
I like Scott Eastwood. I'm sorry, Winston.
No, I was gonna say he looks the role, but I don't. I agree that I don't know. I go back and forth on his actual acting personally.
I think Scott Eastwood looks too much like his dad, and his dad looks too much like Hugh Jackman. I'd just be watching Cyclops, and be like, why is that man Wolverine?
Fair. All right. Well, guys, we did it. We had a full show here. Our first live show since Capes and Cows since we switched over to live every day with myself and Winston and Coy, the whole crew together, that is. I'd like to thank both Winston and Coy. Start with Winston. Winston, where can they find you?
You can find me at the Swaggy Blur on all platforms, but especially here on YouTube. I have put out my episode 1, Agatha instant reaction, my instant reaction to 2, and Penguin will be out in a couple hours here. And then over the weekend, I will give you my spoiler review of both of those. I just need to obviously sit down and do all that. Other than that, man, the Blurred Breakdown, we've been covering a lot of great stuff. Obviously, this Diddy stuff has been absolutely insane. So discussing that, Shohei Ohtani just broke a crazy record of a 50-50. I'll explain what that is if you don't know what it is, but a lot of good stuff over there on my channel, man. So come say what's up.
Coy?
I'm just getting back to it. I took like 5 days off, but I did a quick stream of consciousness, unedited thoughts on the Penguin, and then one for Agatha. So those are both up on my page, Coy Jandro on YouTube. But now that I'm back, going to be covering each episode of Penguin, each episode of Agatha, as well as Transformers 1 this weekend that I'm seeing largely because of Christian's rave review. So I'll be checking out Transformers and reviewing that. So head on over to my YouTube. I'm approaching, I want to hit 36K the month of my 36th birthday. So I've got another 10 days to hit 36. I'm at 35. So hunt me down over there. And I really, really enjoyed this format. Like live is chill. This is cool because this is like sitting in the room with Winston and Christian, so it felt good.
Well, and it's plus the fact that we get to get so many questions of stuff that like I'm not going to ask it because I don't know the way that these people are so like locked in and some of these cool questions that I'm learning. So I appreciate everybody who's been putting those questions in there today and having both myself, Winston, and Coy on to do that. I appreciate it. I have been doing the movie reviews, movie reactions, plus the TV reactions. My wife and I just did the first 2 of Agatha. My friend Tina and I did Long Legs. I got Logan coming next week with my friend Samantha. Matt Sarah did one. I have Out of the Theater reactions next week for Saturday night and the Wild Robot. So I got a lot of stuff coming. So thanks for joining us here on the channel here today. Really, really appreciate it. We're on Apple Podcasts, Spotify. Please subscribe if you haven't done that already. And that's it. We're here live every day. Appreciate it for myself, Winston, and Coy. That is the episode. See you later. Bye. That's just frozen again. I don't know why it's doing that. All right, we'll have to re-up.